Hello, 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 folks. How's everyone doing? The music, definitely. Let's wait for a couple of minutes. Let people join. Hey, hi. Let's wait for a couple of more minutes and let everyone join. So, the volume a bit. It's too loud. Yep, that sounds about right. So, how's everyone doing? How was the last session? I'm sorry I could not join the last bits, but I'm sure it would have been an amazing one. I have. Hey, hi. Yep. So, okay, we have lots of folks joining in. Oh, that is so cool. Okay, I am so happy that you all appreciate it. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, Newport is good. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you everyone for joining in. Now let's get started. I won't waste too much of your time. So step one is registration. Okay, just to let you all know, you can register for this stream here. Now the registration link. Okay, let me just. Yep, that's better. Okay, now the registration link. Yep, we will wait, but I am just basically going to share the registration link, talk about a few things, and then we'll get started. Actually, kind of. So, okay, so you can register for this session on this particular link. If you open the link, it will say it is part 2, but it's actually part 1. I was supposed to take part 1 on Wednesday, but I wasn't feeling well. uh, Bad cold, bad cough, bad headache, like everything too bad. You would still find my voice a bit uh, weird, if that sounds about right. And I like I sincerely request you to please ignore that, and I'm so sorry about that. But hopefully, like since I was feeling better today, I was like, okay, let's start with this session. Let's take this session. I am sure you all will like it. And yep, thank you so much. Yes, I am feeling much, much, much better today. Uh, okay, so yeah, so I hope you all like this session. It will be kind of in 3 parts now instead of the originally planned 4 parts. But in 3 sessions, we'll try to cover as much as possible. The only uh, difference would kind of be that I had a very big project plan. We would be able to complete maybe like uh, 60% of it. The remaining 40, I would say, please contribute to it. Okay, so towards the end of session, when we'll have more people joining in a way, I am going to talk more about how you can contribute, what to do, what not to do. But for now, for everyone who is here right now, let's get started. So, uh, the name of the project, it kind of gives an idea of what we are building. But if you are not aware of any invoice generator, there are kind of multiple. One of the things that I have used in the past, one I have liked in the past, it's called as Toggle Track. Okay, so Toggle Track is one of the kind of websites where you can track what you have done. So think of it as your to-do list, but with time tracking and uh, billable hours. Okay, so you can bill or basically generate an invoice or charge a client or a business for the amount of work you have done. So that's very simple of what invoice generator means. Okay, you give them like, I have worked on this project from this time to this time, or in general you can tell them that, okay, I've worked on this thing for x number of hours, and for every hour I'm going to charge you y amount of money. So that gives you x into y. You give your total amount, and if you have done like multiple things for one client, just sum it up, and that's it. Like, think of it as something that you could do in Excel. Okay, very simply. uh, and that's what we are going to build for this project. We are going to build something which allows you to have a table. It allows you to add rows, add some columns, do sum of the total column, get a final amount, and then finally print it. Okay, when I say print it, I mean generate a PDF out of it, download that PDF, and then you can share that with the world, or just print it using printer. So I have a little diagram for it, which I think should be good to give you an idea of what we'll have. Now, the purpose of this stream is also for you to kind of make decisions, make a blueprint of the projects that you're going to build. Okay, so this is how I plan a project if I ever have to. And I think it is helpful in a way, because once you start planning, that's when you realize the missing parts of your project, the missing parts of the app you're building, the website you're building, anything that you're building. You find the missing parts once you actually write it down. So that's what I did. I wrote multiple things. I realized some of the things that are not necessary, that could be ignored for the time being. And that's how I arrived at this kind of 60% of the whole project part. Uh, so, yeah, that is some parts of it. Now, let's go through what I have here. And let's talk about each and every aspect, why it's there, how it's there, and then we'll finally move into the coding. So, but in today's session, we'll have some code for sure. By the end of it, we'll have some bits and pieces of how we are storing data, what we are doing with the data, and all those things. And in tomorrow's session, tomorrow I have two sessions. So in tomorrow's session, we'll move towards more of the PDF generation part. uh, and let's see, if the time permits, we'll also add the table today. If it doesn't, then we'll do that tomorrow. Okay. So normally, when you start building a project, you should divide your project's requirements into two parts. Okay, one is called as functional requirements, one is called as non-functional requirements. A functional requirement could, you can think of it as a feature that a user will see or use on the website you make, let's say. So that's what I have done here. So first, let's go through all the features that I think this should have. Feel free to add more in the chat once we have gone through all 5 of these that's on page. Feel free to add more. We can discuss about it. Maybe when I finally push this on GitHub, I could add the features that you all have suggested, and maybe someone could contribute to it. Okay, so first is we need a nav bar and a footer with some dark mode support. Okay, that's one of the features, very basic. Next is we need 2 pages on the website. Okay, there's one page where you could add time details. So when I say time details, I mean the start time of when you started working on something, the end time of when you stopped working on something. One example that I could take right now is the start time of this particular stream and the end time of this particular stream. That could be added in the time details page. We also break it down more just below, but yeah, that is one idea. Second thing is another page which is called as invoice details page. What we need to do in invoice details, we'll go to that. Let's first talk about time details page. Now, in time details page, as I said, the start time of something, the end time of something. Then there should be an option to add a project name. So, what is this start time and end time of? In this case, like in this current scenario that we are on, I would say that the project name is GHW Open Source Week, and some project tags. Think of project tags as hashtags. Okay, yes, dark mode support is really important for Gen Z users. Uh, yep, but yeah, so and I kind of like it, though I wouldn't be counted in Gen Z. I think so. Uh, Okay, so this is the time details page. Start time, end time, some project name, and project hashtags in a way. Why we need those? So you could group your work done by project name. When I say group, I mean like, you could select like all the sessions that I have taken for GHW, group them together. So if I have taken one session today from like 1 p.m. IST to 3 p.m. IST, then tomorrow, I think it's the same time or something. Uh, and then other session. So I have three sessions. All of them have the same project name, which is GHW Open Source Week. So I could group them together and get a total of how much time I have spent in taking sessions of GHW Open Source Week. So that is why we need the project name. Similarly, for project tags, you could think divide it into, let's say, I have done two parts in Open Source Week. One is the streaming, and one is preparation. So I could have two different hashtags for it. The project name will still be GHW Open Source Week, but there would be two hashtags to it. One is hashtag preparation, one is hashtag streaming. So I could also group by or group my work done based on the tags, based on, okay, how much time did I spend on preparation, how much time did I spend on streaming. Okay, so divide it in that phase. That is why we need these things. uh, I would now give it open to anyone. What else do you think should be there? uh, if you have any suggestions, anything that could be added on the time details page, okay, let me know in the chat. Meanwhile, I'll move ahead for invoice details page. Now, invoice details page, I have highlighted it because that is what we are going to actually build in the next today and tomorrow's session. So in the next three sessions, we are going to build the invoice details page. So what all invoice details page should have? It should have invoice header. So when I say invoice header, it should have the option or the ability to add an invoice number. It should have an option to add invoice, the date of invoice, the name of the user. So let's say I am the person who is, okay, I have some things in chat. I'll come back to it. Sorry. I think I have some interesting things. So yeah. So date of invoice, when was this, let's say, invoice created? Now, this is completely different from time details page, okay? Let me be very clear there. These are two completely different aspects of the whole website. One is time details page where you can add these things and generate an invoice or generate a PDF of everything from time details page. Now that is separate. Okay, think of it as a separate app altogether. The next is separate app, which is invoice details page. Okay, so in invoice details, you manually add everything. You don't add start time and end time or group by anything or something. You actually add it row by row, the way you would do in, let's say, Excel or Google Sheets. So first is headers. So we are on invoice number, we know, date we know. Sorry, I do have to leave. Oh, hi 404. How's it going? Okay, you're going, sorry. But yeah, nice seeing you here. Okay, so next is user. So when I say user, it could be me, example. So I would say like UT, user's address, good for legal purposes. Okay. Then build to the company that I'm going to bill for this invoice. Could be anyone. Let's say for the purpose of this project, I'm going to bill MLH. Okay. So bill to the name of the company and the company address. Again, for legal purposes, it's required. When you file your taxes, you'll realize that you need all these things. Uh, but yeah, so these are the things that are going to be part of invoice header. At least by the end of today's session, we would have completed this due date. Okay, that is a very nice suggestion. Due date. I could add that. I don't know, but some companies, uh, example like in a corporate job, you don't invoice them, but the consultants that work in my company, uh, they give their invoice, but there's no due date because company clears it as and when they want. But it is a nice option to have, so thank you so much for that. Okay, now I'll go through the chat quickly and then we'll come back to more options. So would it be possible to get a link to this document? I think I have to share it, right? But maybe by tomorrow it will be on GitHub and I'll share the GitHub link directly. That would be easier. uh, the next one is yeah, I mean, yeah, from freelancer perspective, due date is a good suggestion. Yes, so I'll add that definitely. So the next option, sorry, the next comment was time with client and or prep time unless that is factored somewhere else. Yes, so I think it could be factored in here for time details page. uh, when we add the project tags, you could factor like hashtag prep time or like hashtag client time or client discussion. So could go in the hashtags and you could again uh, group it by those hashtags. Any other thing? A single project can be done in phases. We have to implement that in time details. uh, Single project can be done in phases. Yeah, so that is why the project name and the start and end time. So maybe like uh, us again coming back to this session would be done in 3 phases. So every time I start working on it, I can add the start time. It's like I started at uh, 1 p.m. UK time and I ended at 3 p.m. UK time. So that ways I think we could factor the phases of this project. Okay, there was a hi 7-1, I'm guessing. Yeah, and yeah, okay, that's all. Now coming back, so invoice details page. So we understood what's the invoice header. So think of a card. Okay, I literally mean a card which with multiple inputs in it. Maybe not relevant, start project, and this seems very important aspects of project management. Yeah, project management. Yep. I think most of the freelancers that I know of, their managers kind of help with this. So yes, it does. Okay. Next, invoice details. Now think of the invoice details, or I should actually kind of rename it to invoice details table. Okay, so in invoice details table, when I say table, just imagine Excel or Google Sheets, and that's where you have multiple columns. So one column would be item name, then there would be item description. So let's say item name is streaming, and item description is streaming for open source invoice generator with React.js part 1. Then quantity per hour. So I did like, so per hour, when I say, I mean like I did, let's say 2 hour session. So it's like two. Price would be more like the cost or how much I bill them. So example, in price column, it would be I bill them, let's say uh, $5 an hour. Okay, so $5 per hour. So you could also change this as price per hour. So 2 hours, and per hour I'm charging $5. So 2 into 5 total would be, of course, $10. Yeah. We'll come back to that later. But this is an assumption, okay? All of this is fictional. There's no concrete things to this. The next option would be option to calculate the sum of everything in total column. So let's say I add like 4 rows and just calculate them total. So I need one bottom uh, row, which would be called as total, and that would give me a sum of all the money that I'm kind of earning in a nice little subtotal format. And then there should be an option to delete individual rows. So let's say I add the first row, I add the second row, I add the third row, and I realize, oh, I don't need the second row anymore because, oh, they're not going to pay me for preparation. Example, they're not going to pay me for preparation, which I added in the invoice details tab, in invoice details table. So I can just delete that particular row. Okay, just clear it out, cancel it, whatever you want to call it. But the ability to delete a particular row should be there. Okay. Travel row. So you mean travel column? I'm sorry, I'm confused there. Uh, are there no options for editing the invoice details page? So the whole page is editable. So yeah, you can kind of edit the whole page of the invoice details. Uh, you could have a button to add new rows. So every time you click on that button, it adds a new row. Then you can edit individual cells in that particular row, and then yeah, you can delete it. Travel column. I don't know. Do we need it? Because the item name could be travel and description could be traveled from this to this for this reason. Quantity per hour could be kind of constant here. So quantity per hour, let's say it's just one. And the price of the total travel would be my total travel expenditure, which would be like the fuel cost plus something. So that comes out, assuming, let's say $20. So 1 into 20. So the total price would be 20. So yeah. So, but travel, yeah, it could come what we have right now. And finally, we'll have the option to generate PDF. I don't know why I did not highlight that, but we are going to build this, don't worry. Yeah. The next option would be to generate PDF. So two ways to generate a PDF, one from time details page, which we are not going to focus on. Oh, now I realize why I did not highlight it, because it has two things there. But we are going to work on this from the add invoice details page based on the entries that we have. So can I just color this? Yep. So this is what we are going to build from the add invoice details page. That is this add invoice details page. Okay, so we should have the ability to generate a PDF from there. So this is our functional requirements, the minimal, as Skiddy24 said, that we should keep it minimal. This is our MVP of the project. But from that MVP, we are only going to build part of that MVP. Now, moving on. So these are the features that the user will be able to use. And let's talk about the tech stack. Again, not all of this would be used because not building everything, but what should, like, the non-functional requirements, or you can also call it the tech stack of what it would be doing, how would it be doing. So what we have done, sorry, the how and the behind the scenes libraries and all that we are going to use, that comes into non-functional requirements. So for front end framework slash library, we are going to use React.js with Vite. Then for CSS, or you can say styling, we are going to use Tailwind CSS with Daisy UI. Should be visible now. Okay, for page routing, when we make multiple pages, right now we are not going to, but when we make multiple pages, we can use React Router DOM for routing between the pages. Next is for invoice details table. Okay, we could use AG grade React. I have done a session once upon a time with AG grade React, but if you have not seen that, I think it's perfect time to reintroduce it. I am in love with that library, and you will fall in love with it too once you use it. For PDF generation, we are going to use React PDF. And the next thing is linting and formatting. So think of linting and formatting, or linter and formatter, as the ways to keep your code structured. Okay. So if we have time by the end of third session, sorry to break everyone's heart here, people who were expecting this, if we have time at the end of third session and we have successfully generated the PDF and all, that's when we'll go into the linter and formatter stuff. But at least for now, we are going to kind of ignore it. But it's good, it's really good to have. Kind of think of it as a necessity to have. Why? Because when you have ESLint installed in your project, uh, you try to use something, you could define rules in ESLint. You could say that, don't allow someone to use, okay, let me think of proper example. You could force people to only use variable names that are camel case. Okay, think of it as that way. So when you have a linter, you could enforce some rules on the project. Like, you cannot have a switch case statement in your project which does not have a default. You cannot have a if else statement without having an else. Okay, else is very necessary. So you can kind of enforce those rules in the project, which ensures that your project is up to the mark, up to the standards. You'll have less and less bugs in your project if you have thought of proper rules to implement. And there are like a ton of them. uh, I don't think I have a list of it somewhere, but you could kind of find it in the docs, I feel. Should have found it before the session started. No worries. Maybe we'll be able to implement it by the end of third session. But yeah, so linting, that is one thing. The next is prettier, that is formatter. So everyone has their own way of formatting code. Okay, some of them, some people love spaces. Okay, like two space is enough space. Some are on the tab side. Okay, they like one tab of space is kind of necessary. How many characters should be in one page, should be visible in one line, you can say 80 characters or some like 100 characters. When I say characters, I mean spaces, letters, numbers, everything combined. Okay, 80, 100. So I'm not going to start a war here of tabs versus spaces, 80 versus 100, all those things. But with having a formatter, you again enforce a consistent formatting style. And for formatting, prettier is kind of go-to. Actually, I'm kind of not sure what is other alternative of prettier, uh, but it is an amazing kind of library, an opinionated code formatter. Okay, supports JavaScript, JSX, all those things. We are going to use JSX in our project, but yeah, so that is linting and formatting. When we, and I don't think it would be possible, but when I am going to continue building on this project, because even I already love the idea of this project, even though I thought of it, but I was like, hey, this sounds like a really cool project and I should continue building on it, continue to take in PRs from other people. So when we have enough functionalities, we are going to add testing to it. Like, at least I am definitely going to. And one of the or two of the libraries that you could use is React testing library and vtest. Vtest is kind of new in the market, came at the same time or maybe 1 month after Vite came in, and I've used it. It is really good. For state management, we could use the newer version of Redux, sorry, newer version of Redux, which is called as Redux Toolkit. It is kind of easier than Redux. People used to be afraid of Redux, me included. Uh, but right now, I have started using Redux Toolkit and I'm already loving it because it's way, way, way easier than Redux. Data storage on client side in IndexedDB using Dexy.js. Now, this is very interesting. I think I kind of did one session on how to use IndexedDB. So, in your in any, let's say, browser, at least things that I'm sure of. I'm sure of Chrome and I'm sure of Firefox. In these two browsers, uh, and even Safari, I think, if you go to the application tab, once you open, like you just right click, you click on inspect, and then go to the application tab, you will have three types of storage. Actually, kind of five. Yeah, five storage. There's local storage. I think this is too small. Let me try and increase the font size. Yep, this should be good. So there's local storage. What local storage means is it stores the data that you want locally. It's in a key value pair format. Okay, and uh, the it remains on this browser until you actually delete it. Okay, it just remains there. The next is session storage. So session storage is, you could think of a session as some like X amount of time, and the data that you store in this storage, in this key value pair storage, in session storage, stays there for some time, and after that it gets deleted. Okay, so there's whenever you close the browser completely, you restart your machine, your session data would be deleted. But even if you restart your browser, you close your browser, I mean not the web page, okay, your browser, you close Chrome, you shut off your laptop, you restart it, local storage will still have data in it. Then comes this third thing, which is called as IndexedDB. IndexedDB. Sorry. uh, so indexed DB, what it does is, think of it as a database, a kind of SQL-like database, which is on your browser, and the size of this database. So now again, going back, sorry, local storage would be, let's say, 10 MB, 10 megabytes of data. Uh, okay, session storage would be approximately, let's say, same size. IndexedDB would actually be the size of 80% of your actual uh, disk. Okay, so if you have 512 gigabytes of uh, hard disk, IndexedDB would approximately be somewhere around 400 gigabytes. Okay, I think that's what it is. Let me just quickly actually confirm. IndexedDB storage. Okay, so local storage is 2.5 MB to 10 MB, Chrome and Chromium based, 80% disk. So if you have 100 GB if you have 100 GB of disk storage, you can have 80%, that is 80 GB of space. Okay, so that's how big IndexedDB storage is. So, okay, I was kind of right there. And thankfully, I remembered. But yes. So That's how much data you could store on IndexedDB. Now, there was a quick question: is IndexedDB better than local storage? Depends on what you want to store. Okay, so if you want to store less data, okay, which is like, let's say you want to store whether the user is using dark mode or light mode, like is dark mode on, true or false, you could store it in local storage. But if you literally want to store data like the one that we are going to store the invoice details. So for that, we are going to use IndexedDB. Now, using IndexedDB, it's nice, but there is a wrapper or a library which makes it even better, and that is Dexy.js. And finally, we are going to deploy it on Netlify. Again, this would be at the end of third session. And that's kind of all the functional and non-functional requirements. I'm sorry I took time there, but I kind of wanted to. The reason being that, once you start working on a project, we kind of direct ourselves based on what's going on. But this way, you would be able to start your own project, divide your work into functional and non-functional requirements, think of the tech stack that you are going to use, and just note it down so that next time when you come back, you know what you have been doing. Now, let me go into the chat. Uh, so if you build an application with IndexedDB and later build a good backend, is it easy to migrate the data? Uh, yes, it should be easy. Okay, so just think of it this way: in IndexedDB, you store the data again as kind of key value pair or JSON documents. And once you download it, you could download it as a JSON or write a wrapper which converts it. Mostly, I'm sure that you could download it as a JSON, and most of the databases support the JSON format. Like, at least I know NoSQL databases like MongoDB and Redis, they support this JSON format of data upload. For SQL kind of databases, like let's say MySQL or Postgres, I'm sure you'll have to write some part of code to convert it, but I could be wrong there. Uh, Thank you so much. So there is a question. I don't understand the storage in web dev. I just don't. I just know databases. Databases is cool, but sometimes you do need to store some data on local storage. Uh, if you open your Gmail, go into your session storage, you would see there's so many key value pairs. Uh, and it's used by websites to keep a track of how much time you have spent uh, on this website. Let's say you also need session storage to confirm two sessions, or like uh, you have opened, let's say, Gmail on one tab, then you open it on other tab, it carries over what you had on the previous tab to the next tab. Okay, so it's using the same kind of session, it bridges a session. So you use these kind of storages to navigate between tabs, open multiple tabs of the same thing, store some minimal amount of data. uh, as far as I know, I think Vice used Vice. They used IndexedDB to give faster uh, posts, okay, blog posts to user, because once you open it for the first time, they actually store everything on your browser, on your local browser, and then you refresh the page. The data is not, it's not calling an API to get the data. It's already there on your browser, so it just becomes very fast. Okay, and now a very bad sketch of how it's going to look. uh, don't judge my UX or UI skills. But okay, so there would be a nav bar, which we'll be not building today, at least, because uh, I'm going to show you a way to have a dark mode and light mode maybe tomorrow. And you could use or reuse that part of code every time you build a dark mode and light mode. So there's a, okay, zoom a bit. Is this fine? Should be, I feel. but I'm going to go over. So there would be a, let's say, a nav bar, and then there would be a card which basically says, give me a second, please. Sorry, I'm back. I had to, yeah, ban the person, and okay, uh, let's forget about it. Coming back. Anyway, hi. So yeah, so let's come back to our project. So we were on the UI design of our website that we are going to build. So think of the upper part of the card is where we would add the invoice header details. You can think of it as that way. So there's customer name, there's customer address, there would be client name, which would be, let's say, the user or myself, my address, what is my invoice number. So let's say this is invoice number 1, 2, 3, 4, the date of invoice. Okay, so that is our inputs part, which is why I have grayed out like inputs here. And there would be invoice details table. Okay, so on the invoice details table, this is where we would add the table, and we are going to use AG-Grid React to add some data in this table. And finally, a generate invoice button, which is going to, like, uh, on clicking on it, we are going to just generate a PDF of the invoice details and a footer. Okay, so this is how our UI in a way is going to look like. And this should not be at time, or this should be at time. And on the nav bar, we will have two pages later. So one is invoice details, which we are going to build right now, and the add time page where we are going to add the time details page. Okay. So this would be kind of the layout that we are going to build. And okay, it's been, will there be a preview page before downloading it? Uh, could try that. Yeah, I think we could have that. Let's, once we start building, we could definitely design that. And yeah, I think that should be it. Now I've taken like 45 minutes of your time to explain the project. Uh, but I and these are the things that I'll also put on GitHub later. So once we'll actually make some issues later where we could contribute to individual issues, contribute individual PRs to resolve issues, and all those things. So we'll come back to it later. But for now, let's take a quick 10 minutes break. And once we come back, then we'll start coding it, start developing it. So for now, thank you so much. Is there any question? Okay, I take the silence as golden. What program am I using right now? So I'm using draw.io right now, uh, which, as far as I know, has migrated to app.diagrams.net. Okay, so if you like go uh, to this website, it would kind of redirect you to apps.diagrams.net. So that's where I've developed this thing. Okay. So, okay, let's take a quick break and we'll be back in approximately 10 minutes. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. I'm back. I don't think it's been 10 minutes yet, but yeah, I think we can wait for another minute for people to join back. And now let's begin the next part. The next part would definitely be uh, coding out or building out the project. And we'll start with the bare minimum. And slowly and steadily we are going to improve the project. Most of the improvements again will happen in the third session, towards the end of third session. uh, and when I say improvements, I mean the adding of ESLint, prettier, and uh, just code structuring, code reformatting, and how do we make it kind of an intermediate level open source project, uh, so that others who join in, they see some good coding standards, they see some better, uh, not better, but yeah, just good formatting, good ways of breaking down your components and everything. Okay, so okay, let's get started. And no, I don't think it would be out of anyone's scope. For if you have joined my previous streams, you know that I always take it from bare minimum, like very beginner level. And some people do get annoyed that I keep repeating stuff and I keep starting from minimum. But as always, as I always ask you or request you, that if you can stay back, even if all of this sounds too easy to beginner, if you could stay back and help others who are not uh, aware of the whole React ecosystem, or people who are just starting out, uh, if you could stay back and help them, that would be very beneficial to the community. Okay, so as always, let's head on to Replit. Okay, yep, that is so true. Uh, so again, folks who have joined me previously, they know what Replit is. Folks who have not joined me previously, I am in love with Replit. You could actually see all the ripples that I have created. I find Replit nice and good, and this is coming from me. Okay, they are not sponsoring me to say this, sadly, but I like it because I don't have to work or spend time on setting up something. It's quick and easy. That's what I like about Replit. So if you want to follow along, if you want to code along with me, uh, please create an account on Replit. You could do it on your own machine, on your own local machine, provided you have done some part of some, like you have done React before. Okay, so when I say React before, you need Node.js installed, you need uh, to have npm installed, which comes with Node.js. You need to have a coding editor, like let's say VS Code or Sublime or something. Does Replit have a student account or is it paid? Replit is free, student or no student. Uh, uh, I'm not sure. I think they do offer some premium features to students, but I could be completely wrong there. But yeah, Replit is free. I'm using free account. Okay. So if you have Node installed, if you have VS Code installed, I think that should be fine enough to start it on your local. Okay. Yeah. Now let me go back to chat. Yeah, people learn fast when you just go back and repeat. Uh, is this for me? Your way of teaching is. Oh yeah, thank you so much, Sridhar and Skiddy. Uh, and yeah, I think I should probably ask Rosendo for this. And yep, that is it. So, but if you don't have all of that, sorry, then go on Replit. Okay, create an account there. It is very easy. One click account creation. Like click on sign up with Google or click on sign up with GitHub, and that's it. You are in. Once you have done that, hopefully you are on this page, the home page. Go on to templates. Okay, go on to templates. In the templates, search for React, And the first template. Uh, I also think someday I should take a session on how to create a Replit template, because we keep using this. And okay, nice. Uh, yeah, we keep using this template and I really like it. I just think that I should also add Tailwind to it, Daisy UI to it, because again we keep using those two libraries and I have to install it again and again. uh, yeah, I think someday we can have a session on how to create a template on Replit. But for now, let's go with this React JavaScript template. We'll code in Replit and transfer it after. Yes, that's what I'm going to do myself. So yeah, you're welcome to do that as well. Definitely. So click on that template and then click on use template, give it a proper name and description. I have a very sad story which I've repeated so many times. One time I deleted my Replit because I did not have a proper name and I thought it's just garbage. So this is going to be GHW open source invoice generator. And for now, I'm just going to paste that here. And let's click on use template. Okay. Once you click on use template, it's going to create a clone or copy of that template, and it will have Vite pre-installed. Okay. So you could go to, on the left hand side, you can see packager files, go to package.json, and you can see the things that are already installed. So it does not have any dependency here, but it has dependencies. Types React DOM, Vue.js plugin, React DOM, TypeScript, and Vite. Okay, now out of this, okay, like, is this good enough? I'm so sorry, I did not do that previously. Normally I have it on like better font size because I've used it so many times. I don't know why it went back to small font. Is Replit like CodePen? Yes, it is kind of like CodePen. Yep, you could share it. Yes. Okay, so we are going to make a few changes, and these changes are kind of necessary. Uh, because once we put it out in open, once we deploy it on Netlify, we need some dependencies, some dev dependencies. So I am going to take React and React DOM, okay, and I am going to cut it from here, Control X, Command X, whatever, and paste it in dependencies. So there's a difference. There's a dependency, there's a dev dependency. Uh, if you are coming new to the whole JavaScript ecosystem, or React more like, so there is something called as package JSON. Think of package JSON as a place, as a file where you can define which libraries you are using in your project and their version number. So now you could have multiple libraries installed, like you could have 20 libraries installed, but not all of them are contributing to your project when it's deployed for others to use. Example, let's say I install uh, ESLint and I install Prettier. If you remember, ESLint is code linter where you could enforce rules. Now, these rules are when you are actually coding. It does not make any sense, or it is not required when you deploy this project, deploy this website for others to use, because they are not going to code, they're going to use your app. Okay, so ESLint should not be a dependency. I think that gives you kind of an idea. So dependency is things or libraries that are required for the project to run. Okay, and dev dependencies are developer dependencies which are required uh, for your code to be more formatted, your code to run locally. Okay, your code to run. Okay, that's kind of the difference. So React and React DOM try and keep it in dependencies rather than dev dependencies, because these two libraries are required for the project to run when it's deployed on some other uh, somewhere. Okay, but dev dependencies are more like they're required for the project to run locally. Interestingly, Vite is a dev dependency, okay, because it's required to run the project locally, because it gives you a local server in a way. Okay. Now there are some things that we actually don't need, which I'm going to delete right now. Types React, we don't need that, because this is more when you want to create a TypeScript project. We are going to use JavaScript, so we don't need this. We don't need types React DOM as well. We are not using TypeScript, so we can delete this as well. And yeah, I think that should be it. We will change the name and description later. Uh, there's a file here which is called as tsconfig.json. TS is TypeScript configuration.json file. Since we are not using TypeScript, we could kind of delete this for now. So let's delete that as well. And what else? If you open the public folder, there would be a favicon.svg. Not going to use it. We'll create our own favicon later. But actually, okay, let's keep it. Not going to use it. Index.html. Now, few things that I'm going to delete from here. I'm going to delete this comment. Okay, this comment, the one in green. And we are also going to delete this particular script which says src replit. So it's a replit logo on our website. Going to delete it temporarily. Yeah, and we are also going to change the title of the website. This would be called as Open Source Invoice App. Invoice Generator app. Yeah, I think that's big enough for someone to understand, and I think that should be good. Now there's one thing here, no tsconfig and Vite config for me. So you would need Vite config.js for sure. No tsconfig, yes. So for people who are actually building it on their local, okay, so what you have to do is go to Vite website, which is vitejs.dev, and oh, those files are not present. So did you, oh, did you clone the React template? I mean, it should be there, frankly. I have had them like so many times, so I'm sure it should be there. So go to templates, you go on search templates, search for React. The first one, React JavaScript template. Uh, hmm. Well, it doesn't show here, but when I click on use template, it opened it for me. So I am not sure. Maybe it's not there, maybe it's there, but it should have been there generally. So, okay, going back to the project again. Uh, okay, so going back to the project. Now, what do we have? Did I use React TypeScript template? I don't. Ah, I am sure I didn't. clicked on the first one as far as I remember. So templates, search for React. The first one is React JavaScript. Click on it. Click on use template. Temp React project, and then click on use template. This time I definitely clicked on that, and it for me it has it here. Like there's v config, there's ts config, and I definitely clicked. Okay. Well, if so many people are saying that they don't have it, I'm not sure what's going on. So can I share the link to this one? Uh, is this the link? Yep, rep link. Yeah. Can you all open this particular link? This should directly show you the template. And since I tried it again, I think it has the TS config and everything. Okay, now let me go back to my home page. I'm going to delete this because Replit has kind of limited storage. So that's gone. And here we are back to OpenSource Invoice Generator app. Now, what else do we need to change? So let's go back to package.json. Okay. Uh, just to show you all what we have. So we have a few things here. We are not touching package lock.json. There's read config. We are not touching that right now. Not required. Index.html, we removed the comment and the Replit badge that was there. Index.jsx, there's something here which we are not going to touch. There is app.jsx, there's app.css. Now app.css already has some css, some styling, so you could just delete that. Okay, so we don't need that style. And yeah, I think that should be good enough. So if I now invalid character noise, so something broke. What did I break? Oh, you should not have a trailing comma in package.json. Okay, so after React DOM, there's no other library. So just remove the comma at the end of it. And now let me try run again. Still working on it, still trying to install everything. And it installed everything, and now it is running it. And automatically, or let's say automagically, you should have a web view open. If it does not open for you automatically, go to the tools section, and if you scroll down here, you'll find web view. So click on that, and that should open web view for you. And you could also open this web view in a new tab. So if you click on that, it will open it for you, and there is our project. Okay, nicely up and running. There's the title of our website, too big of a title. There's the icon, the fav icon, and yeah, that is good enough. Now if you see here, it will say now we are going to also do one or two more things. Step one, let's first stop this project. Okay, you have to kind of click on stop twice or thrice. I don't know why it keeps running. I have to find a reason for it. But once you stop it multiple times, hopefully, let's run some code, some command. Step one is, let's say, clear everything from the console. Okay, once you have cleared everything, the next step is to check npm audit. Okay, npm audit, I think this is the command. Let's see if it runs. Okay, it is running, and it gives several issues. There's a Babel traverse critical vulnerability uh, for this thing. There's post CSS, there's Semver, which has moderate vulnerability. There's Wheat. Between versions 4.1.0 to 4.1.4, there is severity. So there are four security issues in our libraries, two of them moderate, one high, and one critical. Okay. So what are we going to do here? Very simply, we are actually going to reinstall these. Okay. Reinstall these libraries and see if that fixes all the issues. So I'm going to close that part. I'm going to close this and let's reinstall these libraries. So to reinstall them, I'm going to do npm install dash capital D, which means dash dev dependency, and the name of the library. So the first library that I'm going to install is at React.js slash plugin dash React, which just basically copy pasted. The second library that I'm going to reinstall is Vite. So added that there, and I'm going to delete it from package.json. Okay. So what this command should do is reinstall the library in dev dependencies with their latest versions. Okay. And just hit enter. Once you have done written that line, just hit enter and that should install it. Let's wait for it to get installed. Yep, I am going to. It's just like there's a find coming there. Perfect. So it installed it, and as you can see, the versions are completely different from what they were previously, and now there are zero security issues in our project. Okay, so the Wheat team has resolved all the security issues, and we have proper libraries now. So, and this is the command that I ran to reinstall these libraries. Now remember, like normally it should work, but sometimes I've faced issues. Like the issues being, if I already have those versions listed here, it somehow reinstalls that same version. And this happens very rarely, but it does happen. So yeah, for the time being, I would say that please remove it from dev dependencies and kind of reinstall it. And now if I run npm audit, remember we had four issues, I think. Yeah. So now if I do npm audit, it has zero issues, which basically means all our libraries are up to date and everything is working fine. Now if for you it has started running, just stop it and restart it. Okay. And you should be where you were, like where we were. Everything's being same, we just don't have any security issues left in our project. Okay, let's go back to console now. What's next? What are we going to do next? We are going to add Tailwind CSS and we are going to add Daisy UI to the project. Yeah, I keep doing that all the time. I do install it so many times. Should probably have Tailwind CSS. So think of Tailwind CSS as an alternative to CSS. So instead of writing CSS, you are writing Tailwind. Okay, that's the most basic description that I can give about Tailwind CSS. So once you open the website, which is tailwindcss.com, okay, click on the get started. You just cannot miss it. What's cool about Tailwind? I wouldn't say so many, like there's like lots of things cool about it, but one of the easiest things that I find about Tailwind is, uh, and some people will disagree with it, is that it allows me to add shorthand styling properties. So let's say if I want to add margin of uh, 4 pixels on all sides of a box. Okay, so I can do like m dash 2, m small m dash 2, and that in the on the div tag. So you'll see when I start adding it, that it just adds it there instead of me going on a CSS file, pointing to that particular element. Okay, uh, and then adding a margin colon 4 pixels to that particular element. It does it inline. Now some people like it, some people hate it. Okay, because you have your one file, let's call it, let's say app.jsx, and it has your JavaScript written in that file, your HTML like syntax written in that file, and you also have your CSS kind of syntax written in that file only. Some people would say, please separate it. Okay, we need separation of concerns. Don't mix and match don't mix everything into one file. Don't make it like 200 lines of file where instead of it could have been 50 lines. Some people like me like it because it's like, okay, this is where I have added the style. Okay, so yeah. Is it sort of like a CSS preprocessor? CSS preprocessor? No, no. So CSS preprocessor, as far as my understanding goes, is it allows you to add some sort of CSS styling, uh, and then convert it to your normal CSS. So think of it as like a CSS preprocessor would be styled components, I think. Okay, there's a suggestion. So ThinkWorth says that, do you have, oh, okay, it goes back to the problem that I had said initially. So even if I have, to answer that question, even if I have a package version installed in my package lock, that should not conflict when I run npm install. If I do npm CI, that's when it will conflict it. Okay, that's when that issue should arise. So yeah, I don't think that should be a problem, but I may be wrong. Maybe I'll try that next time, definitely. So thank you. Coming back to our CSS, yes, Bootstrap uses a CSS preprocessor. Yes, Sass is a CSS preprocessor. Yep. Uh, okay, let's come back. So Tailwind CSS, think of it as some inline styling library. Easy. Okay. So for installing it, once you open the page, go to the framework guides. Okay. Most of the people like kind of miss that. Uh, but yeah, go to framework guides and slash framework guides. Why did I do this? Yeah, slash framework guides, and go select the Vite. Okay, Vite option. So once you're there, this is where you will reach. The reason why we are going to a framework, because we are using a framework. Okay, multiple frameworks are there. So this Tailwind supports Next.js, Laravel, Gatsby, Solid, Nuxt, and so many things. It also supports Create React app, which I used to use a long time back now. Uh, but yeah, I've shifted to kind of using Vite. So we are using Vite and we are using React. It will automatically default be on React. The first step is to create your project, which we have already done. So we don't need to run that command. Let's go to install Tailwind CSS. Okay, so once you go there, copy the first line. It installs 3 things. So there is Tailwind CSS, there's Post CSS, there's Auto Prefixer. post CSS is, I think that's what the CSS preprocessor is. Uh, let's actually confirm that. Post CSS. Yeah, this should be, this basically means CSS preprocessor, right? So post CSS is what is used to transform process CSS in a way. Okay, so let's go back to the shell option. And whatever we have copied from there, let's just paste it and hit enter. Now, as you can see, even this has a dash capital D there, okay, which basically means that it's a dev dependency. Okay, you don't need Tailwind as your main dependency, because when you build your project, or when you basically want to deploy your project, it will first build your project. It will convert your Tailwind styles that you have written to your normal CSS. Okay, and that's how, and then it will apply those styles to your uh, project, to your page, to your website. And that is why you don't need Tailwind CSS in your dependencies. It's good for dev dependency when you're developing your website. Okay, so hopefully that has been installed. Yep, that has been installed, and you can see it in dev dependencies. Let me close this again. So all these, or not these, yeah, all these three things have been installed. The next step is to run a command which says npx tailwind css init -p, which basically will create two new files. So right now, if I close source folder, we have .config public source gitignore index.html readme.md and veet.config.js. So now once I run this command, paste it and just hit enter, it will create two new files. One would be Tailwind configuration file, one would be post CSS configuration file. So there is tailwind.config.js, a new file that has been created, and a post css.config.js, another new file that has been created. Okay. Uh, Normally we don't have to touch this one. Okay, we don't really do any changes to post CSS config, but we have to make one change at least in Tailwind config.js. So configure your template paths, add the path to all your template files in tailwind.config.js. Easy, just copy this, copy these two lines, uh, or you can copy the whole highlighted thing. Okay, what they have highlighted. So in content, there is an array which says format index.html and format all the files that are inside the source directory, which end with either .js or .ts or .jsx or .tsx. Okay, like keep an eye on those files, and if they are using Tailwind, format them. So let's come back. Let's go to tailwind.config.js, and you see content here. Just delete that and paste what we just copied. Okay, and that is it. That's sufficient kind of to add Tailwind. We can test it out. So they also show, oh sorry, we have one more step. Sorry, so sorry. The next is add Tailwind directive. Okay, so this is where your CSS comes in. It says that you have to add it to index.css. We don't have index.css, but we have app.css. So we will add these three lines to app.css. And now let's go to the next thing is start your build process, npm run dev. So which means we have to stop this and restart it. Let it rerun the project. And once it reruns the project, nothing would have changed, but you would see a warning. Correction there, it's not formatting, it's for Tailwind's build system to see which classes you're using. So Oh, okay. Yeah, bad choice of words. Well, what I was trying to say is that all the files that are inside your source folder, it will keep an eye there, see what, uh, yeah, these are the files where it would keep a track of if you're using Tailwind utility classes, and then, yeah, it would kind of, I keep saying format. When I say format, I mean convert it from your Tailwind utility classes to your normal CSS. Okay. But yeah, thank you so much there. Uh, okay, now there's a warning. It says that no utility classes were detected, okay, in your source files. So right now we told Tailwind to keep a track of the files that are inside this like source folder example, let's say, but we are not using any of the Tailwind's directives or the Tailwind's utility classes. So what we have to do is we go back and let's see. It says to start using Tailwind in your project, you could make a very simple thing like this here. So you could add text dash 3XL, font bold and underline. Now let's go on it line by line. So first is text dash 3XL. So on this, we could actually search and it will say that text-3XL basically applies two CSS properties to your project. The first CSS property is it changes the font size to 1.875 rem, which is kind of 30 pixel. So it increases the font size to 30 pixels. It applies a line height of 36 pixels. Okay, so whenever you use this utility class or this shorthand property, this is what the long hand or like the literal meaning of it is when it converts it. Okay. Font bold, like no guessing there, changes the font to bold, and underline, again no guessing there, uh, adds underline to text. So let's copy this thing, like this class name equals to, okay, let's just copy that quickly and go over to our project, go to app.jsx, and here under main we could add h1 tag. I didn't know that AI has come to Replit. It's giving me suggestions, which is nice. H1 tag and add this class name. So once you add that class name on the right hand side, you could see the change happening. Okay. And if you have opened it in a new tab, you could actually see the change happening. So this is the font size and basically everything. If I open inspect element, I click on it, this is what is applied. And if you see that styles tab, you could see the literal changes that are happening. So font bold is adding a font weight of 700. The dot underline, it's basically adding a text decoration line of underline. The text 3XL, that is actually being converted to font size of this much rem, and this is the line height. Okay. So these utility classes have their own definition. By using kind of the shorthand property, you are kind of applying it. Uh, the underlying proper CSS properties. Okay. The next thing that we are going to install is Daisy UI. Seems like I'm going to spend this one in just installation, but hopefully it would be worth it for the next time onwards. For next time onwards, sorry. Nope, wrong. So open Daisy UI. Shared the link in the chat. So if you once you open Daisy UI, click on the how to use, and there it says that you could use Daisy UI, install Daisy UI as a Tailwind CSS plugin, and that's what we are going to use. We are going to install Daisy UI in our project. Even this is a dev dependency. Okay, so just copy this line, go over to our project, go to shell, just write clear to clear everything that was there previously. Let me shut this one. and just paste what we copied, hit enter. That should start installing Daisy UI. Once Daisy UI has been installed, you could go to Tailwind config.js. It says like add it to Tailwind config.js in the plugins, and you just have to add require Daisy UI. So that's all that you have to do. So let's copy this, go over to our project, open the sidebar if you have closed it, go to Tailwind config.js. In the plugins, you add require Daisy UI. And if you see this error or a blank page, just stop and restart. But once you have restarted it, it should change to a particular theme, okay, the default theme, which would add a background of 1D232A. Okay, so it adds this particular color scheme dark with some styles to it. Okay, now the one good thing about Daisy UI is it allows you to select themes. So let's go to the themes section, and in the Tailwind config.js, we have to add something like this. Okay, let's copy this. Okay, wait, let me just increase the font size. So just copy this part. What this says is you create a new key value pair. So just below the plugins, just under plugins, you could add that. So the key is Daisy UI, and it has a value of objects where the key is themes, and you could decide the themes that are supposed to be used in this project. Now they have some predefined themes. Example, let's say I go with retro. Okay, too yellow, but let's try and add it. So if I remove everything from here and add retro, let it restart or stop and restart it, you would see the retro theme has been applied. Okay, so you don't have to select the color scheme or anything. It just applies it based on what you have selected there. The theme that I really like is night. Okay, gives you this bluish, darkish tint. So yes, you just go there and you apply night. It should restart your server and you will have night theme applied. Yes, it is that easy. And maybe by tomorrow, I will show you a way to add a toggle to change between two Daisy UI themes. Okay, so a nav bar which will have a toggle, and in that toggle you could actually change between, let's say, night and one of the light themes, let's say cupcake. Okay, or pastel maybe. So between pastel and night, we could add a toggle to convert, like switch between those two themes. So yeah, but thankfully now that we have added a night theme, and you could see the list of themes here. Okay, let's add the next part. I've taken too much time here. So sorry about that, but hopefully it has been an enjoyable experience. Now, step one is we'll create first a folder. Okay, let's call that folder as features. Now, in the features folder, okay, I should also reduce this and close most of the tabs, I guess. I'll just keep this one up and running. Now, yeah. So first step is to basically add a folder called as features. Now in the feature folder, it gives you an option to add a file or folder. We are going to add a file. So the first file is going to be invoice info header.js. Okay, invoice, oh, actually .jsx. So invoice info header.jsx, it's going to be the first file. So I like to keep the names very intuitive. So invoice info header, this basically means that it would have the invoice information, the header information of the invoice, but you could also add some additional comments in the uh, file to denote what this page does. So add invoice information like user, customer, invoice, date, invoice number, etc. here. Okay, ignore these suggestions. I don't know why it's suggesting me React Native. So yeah, so this is what this component, okay, is going to do. Again, if you're coming new to the React world, component is your basic, simple, smallest building block. And again, please keep on ignoring these suggestions that I'm getting from Replit. Don't know why. So invoice info header, this is where we are going to have some header information. So let's create that. So let's have a const invoice info header. So this is a function. And in this function, we are going to say that, uh, hate this. So now in this function, we are also going to export it, export default invoice info header. So you can think of this structure as a React component structure. Okay, so you need to have, like, again, this is some very basic thing, but for any React component that you create, you could have this kind of structure for everything. So a const invoice in, like, const and variable name or file name, you can say, keep it same as this file name. And finally you do a default export. And there is one suggestion from React is that uh, you know you could only export one particular component from one file. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And this is one of the structures of how you build a component. So now in the return part, let's add some details. So I'm going to add a div tag here, and I'm just going to add a h1 tag which says invoice info header. Yeah, and you could format this page by clicking on this format. Sometimes it fails, sometimes it passes. If it says formatted successfully, that's good. And as you can see, uh, it is now nicely formatted in a tree structure, step structure, sorry. Okay, uh, yeah. Now we are going to call this in, where should we call it in? We could create a invoice details page. Okay, so there's invoice details page .jsx. So invoice details page is where everything would be. So we create invoice info header, we'll create invoice table, we'll create maybe, let's say, something else. So those are our individual components, but we need one page where we could structure it. Okay, show all of those information on one single page, and that page is going to be invoice details page.jsx. So this page is where all the magic would happen in a way. So let's create this component. So const invoice details page, again a function, and weird suggestions. This would return something. For the time being, we can say that it is very simply a div tag. Inside this div tag, I'm going to have invoice info header being rendered. Okay, very simply. And let's add a quick comment which says invoice details, which is parent to all invoice components. Okay, so as simple as that. And finally we get to export it. So export default invoice details page. You can turn off the autocomplete and oh, clicked on it, disable it. That should do it, I hope. Perfect. So invoice details page, invoice info header, and where are we going to show all of this? Well, it's going to be rendered in app.jsx. Okay, so in app.jsx, remove everything that's there except for the main class. And this is where we are going to have invoice details page being rendered, and invoice details page. Now I think I kind of liked it. At least it imported it for me. So invoice details page, where are we importing it from? So import invoice details page from dot slash features slash invoice details page. I hope the spelling is correct. And let's format this. Formatting failed. So if you ever see this error which says formatting failed, the alternative is prettier. So you go to prettier, you go to try it online, delete everything that's there, paste it, and copy it from the right hand side. That is kind of properly formatted code. So once you do that, you go back to our page. Interesting. There's everything. I added at least some details, right? It has h1 tag. Maybe restart your REPL once or twice. Oh, okay. I have some error. It says invoice info header is not defined. Well, there's invoice info header and invoice. Oh, I did not import it. So import invoice info header from dot slash invoice info header. Yep. Once you do that, there we have a invoice info header being displayed. Yep. So I do have 10 minutes left. So basically we'll be able to at least come up with a card. So that is very basic. That's some base that we have set up. Let's go to Daisy UI. And if you are on the main page, okay, go to C components. And once you start scrolling here, you will find so many components. You could also see all the components here. I like it to view it from here. So there's accordion. Click to open this and click to open this and close others. So accordion, there's alert, avatar, and if you scroll, you will find card. Okay, so click on the card option and you will find some card layouts. So these are some default card designs that exist. And for the purpose of our design, we are going to choose one of these cards. Okay, card layout. So you could actually view the card layout once you click on the JSX. And this is the code that you need to just copy paste. Where is part one? So sorry, this is the part one. Uh, I did not take it on Wednesday because I was not feeling well. So yeah, this is the part one. So you could actually get the code of this card if you go on the JSX, and you just have to copy paste this. So let me quickly show it to you. So I'm going to copy this whole thing. Okay, you could also copy it from here. Go to our code, and in invoice info header, just below the h1 tag, I'm going to paste it. So once you paste it, let it reload. There is the card here. Let me change the color. So it says BG base 100. There are multiple color options available. You could do primary, secondary, accent color. So BG primary, BG secondary, these are the colors that are available in Daisy UI. So if you go to colors section, you could see the names. So there's a primary focus color, there's primary content color, then secondary, then accent, there's neutral color, there's base 100, 200, 300, and base content. There's a info color, there's a success, there's a warning, there's error. So, and BG basically means background. So if I do BG dash warning, it would color the card with the warning color. If I do BG dash danger, danger. No, sorry, it was error. So, okay. So if I color it BG dash error, well, no guessing there, but you know what the color is going to be like. So by that ways you could add a color. So this is the card. So I'm going to give it a color of BG base 300. I think that should be fine. So this is the card color. There is a broken image because the image is coming from slash images. So it's basically checking for the image locally, which we don't have this image sadly, which is why it's not displaying. Also, let me format this to look kind of better. Yep, this is much better. So there's an image which is searching for the image locally, but since we don't have it, it's not displaying it and it's broken. So I am actually going to remove this figure part. Now we have this div tag which ends somewhere here. So I'm going to add a quick comment which says card start, and a quick comment here which says card end. So now you know where to look at. So between card start and card end, now we have class name of card, which is giving it a card structure, W-96. What it means is it's giving a width of 96. What 96? We don't know. So we could, and that is a Tailwind convention. So you could go for W-96. It will say go to width. And if you go there, you will see that W-96 means it gives a width of 384 pixels. Okay, that's what W-96 means. So this thing is giving a width of how much pixels was it again? 384 pixels. There are other options. You could give a width auto, and I think there's an option to give width full, which will make the width of the card 100%. So let's try that. So instead of width 96, I'm going to give it width full, and let's see the difference. Now it takes the full length of the width of the page. Okay, perfect. So now we know what that does. BG base 300 gives a base color. Shadow XL, it gives a shadow. Sadly, I don't think it's properly visible here. It will be on your PC, but at least in this scenario, it's not visible because it's a dark on dark. Okay. Next is there's a class name of card body, inside which there's a card title. So card title is giving it some sort of, so as you can see, card title is giving it a font size of 1.25 rem, line height of 1.75 rem, a font weight of 600, and some more things. Okay, that's what card title is doing. Then there is card actions justify end, which is saying inside which there's a button which says button and button dash primary. What do you think primary means? It is the color of the button. Okay, so and justify end is pushing it on this bottom right side. So if you kind of select that, you will see justify end means it's basically pushing the button to be flex end. It's adding a flex. What is card actions doing? You could see that display flex, flex wrap, align items, flex start, gap of 0.05, 0.5 rem, which translates to a row gap, which basically means the row gap CSS property specifies the gutter or the space between grid rows, and there's a column gap. Okay, so these are the styles that are automatically applied. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so 5 styles are automatically applied once you add these two words like card actions and justify end. That's the magic. One thing I don't like about this thing is it's too end to end, it's too edge to edge. So can I squeeze it in? Let's do that, and I think that's where we will stop today. So to squeeze it in, I'm going to go over to the main in app.jsx, go to the main tag, and I'm going to add class name. Class names, what was it? Class name equals to, so class name equals to, and I'm going to say that whatever be the width of the screen, the max width you should take would be 7xl. Okay, so whatever be the width of the screen, the max width you should take is 7xl. Now as you can see, it automatically squeezed. So if I remove that, it's end to end. The card is end to end. But if I add that particular property, max w-7xl, it gives it a max width. The second thing that I want is everything should be center aligned. Okay, so I can do mx-auto. And that center aligns it. So now my card is center aligned to the page, and everything will be center aligned to the page. As you can see, when the invoice info header, it came to kind of like, in between that whole width, like that whole box that has been created. If I go to inspect to show it to you, yeah. Yep. But there's still one more problem. If I make the screen size smaller, if it's big enough, then you could actually see it center aligned. And it's not touching edge to edge. But once I start squeezing it in, make the screen size smaller, it's again touching edge to edge. So what could we do? We could add some more margin around the whole thing. So that's what I'm going to do. Sorry. I'm going to add some margin and padding around everything. So first on the y-axis, that is top and bottom, I'm going to add some padding of, let's say, py-2. What difference does it make? As you can see, it slightly came down. To get a proper difference, if I add py-10, look at where it comes down to. But I'm going to keep it at 2. I'm also going to tell it one more thing. So I'm going to say that on the x-axis, that is left and right, please make sure that the padding is of 6. So as you can see, it's kind of squeezed in. To give you a difference, if I do it a 10, it would squeeze in more. And now if I go to inspect element, as you can see, it has like kind of squeezed in properly. But if I go to a smaller screen, I think this gap is too much, right? So there's also a way to decide like on what screen size, what should be applied. So I can say like above small screen, add a padding of 6. Above large screen sizes, add a padding of 10, or let's say 8. So at least from our perspective, yeah. So above screen size small, okay, as you can see, if I bring it too close, it squeezes in. Whoopsies. Should have stopped the session. One last thing, px2. So I'm saying that default make a padding x of 2. If it goes above the small size, add a padding of 6 on all sides. If it's above large size, then go to a padding of 8 on all sides. And that is what we have done here. We have made it kind of responsive. And now I know that Dimmer has a session. So this is where I will stop. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I'm going to apologize to Dimmer later. And the code, yep, there you are. I'll just copy paste this in the chat quickly. Yeah, so there it goes. And sadly, I'll have to. There's another session going on. You will enjoy the other session too, definitely. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I'll see you back tomorrow. And we'll kind of complete this whole project. Don't worry about it. I assure you we'll complete it. Okay. So thanks all. See you. Bye-bye.